The movie opens in cell 211 of a prison where a tortured prisoner melts some plastic and then cuts both his arms, with which he dies. The next day, a guard named Juan, who is scheduled to join the prison tomorrow, visits the prison, and two other guards, Armando and German, accompany him around the building. While the guards are informing Juan about the rules and regulations of the prison, they tell him that there is an informer named Apache inside the prison, and no other prisoner knows about him. As they are talking, debris from the building suddenly falls, making Juan bleed through his head, and the other officers immediately take him to empty cell 211. This was a trap set by the prisoners and their leader Malamadre. A little while ago, Julian, a guard, was taken into control by Malamadre, and he freed himself. After Juan was taken to cell 211, Malamadre freed some other prisoners, and this caused all the prisoners to break through their rooms, causing chaos in the building. On the other hand, Armando and German hear the noise outside and understand that the prisoners have freed themselves, so they rush out, leaving Juan in the cell. In the meantime, another prisoner, Riots, reaches cell 211 and asks Juan who he is after waking him up. Juan, confused, doesn't say anything, and Riots leaves, asking others to guard the cell. As he leaves, Juan understands the reason behind the chaos in the prison, so he changes his appearance, and makes him look like a prisoner too. Upon Riots' arrival with his companion Pincho, Juan is taken to meet Malamadre. As they meet, Malamadre asks Juan who he is, and he pretends to be a prisoner too from cell 211. Malamadre shows his skepticism by stating that cell 211 is empty, but Juan tells him that he just got admitted into that cell in case of a murder for which he was punished for 19 years. Malamadre inquires about why his head is bleeding, and Juan tells him that a guard had beaten him. Malamadre isn't convinced that Juan can kill someone, so he orders him to take off his clothes, which Juan reluctantly does. Malamadre is a little convinced that Juan is also a criminal. After that, the crowd disperses, and Juan notices that they are breaking the cameras upon Malamadre's orders. Juan suggests they can use the camera to communicate with the officers, and surprisingly, Malamadre agrees to this suggestion. He leaves one camera and asks Juan to cover it. As Juan covers it with a cloth, he gives a signal to the officers that he has won the trust of the criminals. Now Malamadre takes Juan to meet Julian and asks if he was the guard who beat him, and he denies it. Then he calls another prisoner, Monaco, and orders him to seek revenge for the cruel treatment he received from Julian. Julian had given severe treatment to Monaco, locking him up in the isolation room for 20 straight days. On the other hand, the SWAT team has reached the prison surrounding it on all four sides and is ready to attack. Just then, Carcel, Armando, and Officer Utrilla learn the news of chaos in prison has reached the media. It is also revealed that there are 3 terrorists associated with the ETA who are also in the same prison, and if SWAT teams attack them now, those terrorists will be killed, and the world will lose faith in Spain's prisons and security. Meanwhile, those 3 terrorists are taken by Tuchila to Malamadre. Malamadre, taking advantage of the opportunity, uses the terrorists as a political bargaining chip. Malamadre tells them through the camera that he has 3 significant hostages, which ceases the SWAT team's attack. In the control office, another officer named Almanza arrives, who has been sent for negotiation with the criminals. Carcel tells him that they have given a walkie-talkie to the prisoners, but they haven't used it yet. In the meantime, Juan's wife, unaware of the situation, is shown shopping in the market. In prison, Malamadre asks Juan to write down all the demands on a piece of paper, and the first demand he states is the removal of an officer who kept one of the criminals inside the isolation room for 30 days. The second demand is to allow all the prisoners to meet their relatives at least one time in 2 weeks. Malamadre's third demand is requiring a qualified doctor to treat their illnesses, as the current doctors take cancer as mere diarrhea and pay no attention. Riots tells Juan about a prisoner named Moreo who had a tumor the size of a kiwi in his head, and no one believed him. The officers took him out after he was already dead in cell 211, from where Juan comes. It means that the man who killed himself in the beginning was Moreo. After that, Almanza tries negotiating with the prisoners, and Malamadre asks him to come inside the prison if they want to negotiate. For this, Almanza requests that they uncover the camera so they can see what's happening, and Malamadre agrees. The meeting is scheduled in the next 15 minutes. In the meantime, officers analyze the situation inside through the camera. They see Malamadre's close companions, Apache and Tchula, guarding a cell, and the officers think that the ETA members can be in that cell, but they are not sure about it. Meanwhile, Malamadre talks to Juan about the murder he has been punished for, and Juan tells him that he killed a man who was selling drugs to his younger brother. In addition, his wife is pregnant nowadays. As they talk, Tchula and Apache see them, and Tchula expresses his displeasure with Malamadre for believing in a new man like Juan. Just then, Officer Almanza enters the prison, and Malamadre asks Juan to do his checking. As Juan proceeds to fulfill the order, he whispers in Almanza's ears that the terrorists have been kept inside the bathroom. After that, Malamadre puts forward his demands, and Almanza says that he will talk to the ministry about their demands. Further, Malamadre asks him to provide food for the convicts present inside, to which Almanza demands to see the ETA members. Malamadre tells him they allowed him to enter to negotiate, and they are not in the mood to listen to their useless demands. Instead, Malamadre asks Almanza to let Juan talk to his pregnant wife, and Almanza agrees, allowing Juan to go with him and use the telephone. Juan becomes happy, and he is about to leave with Almanza. They hear a scream, and Malamadre immediately grabs Almanza, putting a knife to his throat, thinking this can be a trap. In the meantime, Juan rushes to see what happened. Juan learns that a prisoner has killed another convict, and the officers from the control room zoom the camera on the dead person's face. They find a resemblance in the dead person's face with one of the ETA members. They immediately order the SWAT team to attack, and Juan, who knows that no ETA member has been killed immediately, rushes to Riots, who is guarding the members. Juan asks Riots to let the members go with him so he can present them in front of the camera and cease the SWAT team's attack. However, Riots tells him that only Malamadre orders and Juan is nobody. To this, Juan tells him that Malamadre is the one who ordered him to do this. Accompanied by the 3 ETA terrorists, Juan goes in front of the camera, which clarifies to the police officers that no ETA member has been killed. Thus, the SWAT team's attack is ceased, leading to Juan winning all the prisoners' trust. They all cheer for him, and Malamadre admires Juan's efforts in front of everyone. However, he secretly tells Juan not to do anything without his permission. Meanwhile, false news about the death of one of the ETA members has been spread in the media even after the officer's denial of the news. Juan's wife, Elena, who is at a restaurant, sees the news and learns about the chaos in the same prison where her husband went. She immediately contacts Armando asking about Juan, and he calms her down, saying that everything is under their control, so she should not worry and go home, leaving her unconvinced. Later, the food which Malamadre demanded arrives, and as everyone eats at the table, Malamadre sees the prisoner who just killed another prisoner and goes to him. He forgets his walkie-talkie on the table, and Apache sees Juan looking at it. Malamadre, on the other hand, scolds the murderer to behave and not act like he is in charge. After that, they all see the news that their relatives are outside the prison. As all the prisoners rush to see their relatives on screen, Juan grabs the walkie-talkie and secretly uses it to contact Almanza. He tells him that the ETA members are in cell 219 and asks about the police's next plan to deal with the situation. Almanza tells him that SWAT teams will only attack them when ETA members are in danger, enraging Juan. He asks them to simply fulfill the 3 basic demands of prisoners, including a little mercy from them and the provision of a doctor. However, Almanza tells him that if this happens in one prison, all other convicts in other prisons will demand the same. In the meantime, Malamadre searches for his walkie-talkie, and Juan gives it to him, telling him that he forgot it on the table. Unfortunately, Apache has already seen Juan coming out from one of the cells with the walkie-talkie. He contacts through his secret phone one of the officers asking for information about Juan, and that's how Apache learns that Juan is a guard. Meanwhile, Armando learns that the chaos inside the prison is because of Utrila's carelessness, who accidentally revealed the news of ETA members' arrival to one of the prisoners, and he told this to Malamadre, who made them hostages. Outside the prison, people go crazy, and pregnant Elena is also there trying to get information about her husband, Juan. Suddenly, people start throwing stones at the police, and during this, a stone comes inside through the window where Utrila is taking tea. On the other hand, Apache reveals to Juan that he knows the truth behind him, and Juan doesn't seem scared. Apache tells him he can give him a chance if he has something useful to offer, and he won't reveal his truth. Meanwhile, Utrilla is enraged and initiates a baton charge on the people to disperse them. All other prisoners, including Juan, are witnessing this scene on the television, and suddenly Juan sees his pregnant wife on the screen too. He panics and rushes to Malamadre, snatching the walkie-talkie, and contacts Almanza, telling him that his pregnant wife is in the crowd. Almanza immediately orders every officer to cease the baton charge and also orders to cut the television signal. Unfortunately, it's too late to cease the attack as Utrilla has already beaten Elena, severely hitting her, and she goes unconscious. Knowing she is around 8 to 9 months pregnant, Utrilla leaves her on the ground. Elena eventually gets admitted into the hospital, while Utrilla gets suspended. At night, Malamadre asks Almanza to set the television signal and demands a list of the people injured during the baton charge. He also asks about Juan's wife, and Almanza tells him she has been admitted to the hospital but will soon recover. He offers Juan to meet his wife in the hospital, to which Juan instantly becomes ready. But Malamadre doesn't allow it, as it would be an injustice to other prisoners who also have their relatives injured. Later, Juan is again threatened by Apache to reveal his truth. In response, Juan informs him that he knows he is the informer of the police inside the prison and has been betraying Malamadre. Hearing this, Apache is scared, and then Juan asks him that he must investigate what happened to his wife through his contacts in the police, and in exchange, Juan will not reveal Apache's truth. After some time, Malamadre receives the list of the people injured during the baton charge and sees only 4 names. He understands that the police are lying, and enraged, he decides to kill one of the ETA members. Juan panics as he knows the SWAT team will attack if ETA members are in danger, and he tries to stop Malamadre and Utrilla from killing him. They don't like his idea, but then Juan asks them to cut his ear if they really want to scare the police, and don't kill him in reality. Utrilla gives the knife to Juan, who cuts the terrorist's ear, and that ear is sent to the police, who reveal the actual list of the injured people. Later, through Apache, they all learn that the police have injured Juan's wife. Apache has provided them with the footage of Utrilla beating Elena, and then leaving her amid the chaos. Juan sees that video repeatedly and burns in his anger, seeing his innocent pregnant wife getting beaten up by cruel Utrilla. Now Utrilla is called inside the prison, and Malamadre lies to the officers, saying they just want to negotiate with Utrilla as they don't trust Almanza. As Utrilla enters, doors are closed, and Malamadre takes him to the basement. As Utrilla reaches the basement, he sees every prisoner looking at him, with Juan in the center giving him a death glare. Juan confronts Utrilla about beating his wife, and Utrilla says that he didn't know she was his wife. Juan becomes angry, and he tells Utrilla that it was visible that a woman is pregnant, and Utrilla, being unaware of Elena's connection to Juan, doesn't justify his act of leaving her on the ground even after beating her. Enraged, Juan attacks Utrilla, and Malamadre stops him, giving him the walkie-talkie to contact Armando and ask if his wife is fine. Armando reluctantly tells Juan that his wife and child are already dead, leaving Juan devastated. Malamadre hugs him and tells everyone to beat Utrilla. As Utrilla is getting beaten up badly by the prisoners, he screams that Juan is a guard and one of the informers of the police. This leads to utter silence, and the prisoners stop beating him, shocked. However, Juan grabs a knife and slits Utrilla's throat, with which Utrilla instantly dies. Later, Juan goes to cell 211 and tries to attempt suicide but fails. The next morning, another negotiator is sent who tells Malamadre that they are ready to fulfill their demands. However, Juan brings Utrilla's dead body and tells the negotiator that they will kill ETA terrorists just like they killed Utrilla, asking him not to lie to them. Juan tells Malamadre that they are saying they will fulfill their demands so that they can get back in control. If they are not lying, they should reveal on air that they are ready to fulfill the prisoners' demands. All the prisoners support Juan's idea, and Malamadre also cheers for him. The negotiator leaves, agreeing to their order that they will go on air in an hour. After some time, Malamadre again scolds Juan for acting like a hero, but Juan tells him that there is no other way except to ask them to go on air. Later, Apache and Utrilla try to convince Malamadre that Utrilla might be telling the truth, that Juan is a guard. However, Malamadre doesn't believe them. Malamadre doesn't believe Almanza, who gives him evidence of Juan being a guard. Malamadre is convinced that even if Juan is a guard, now he is on the prisoner's side. Seeing this, Apache starts collecting some weapons secretly and prepares for an attack. When there are only 10 minutes left before the police go on air, Malamadre reveals to Juan that he knows that he is a guard but didn't kill him. Suddenly they all see the news that the police have accepted the prisoners' demands. Seeing police on air promising to fulfill their demands, prisoners become happy. However, it's just a trap, and when the prisoners are distracted by the news, SWAT teams from the outside and Apache's men from the inside attack all the prisoners. Malamadre and Juan immediately rush to cell 211, where ETA members have been kept as hostages. As they are going upstairs, Apache stabs Juan, and Malamadre stops with him, trying to save him. Unfortunately, Malamadre is also shot by the traitor Apache but survives. In the end, injured prisoners are taken to the hospital while the dead bodies are packed, and Armando sadly sees Juan's dead body. He goes to cell 211, where he finds Juan's engagement ring to Elena as his last memory.